I never thought doing laundry would change my life, but that's exactly what happened last Tuesday. While emptying Sam's jacket pockets, my fingers brushed against a folded piece of paper that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my marriage. My name is Clara, and until that moment, I was living what I thought was a pretty decent life. Not perfect, but decent. Sam and I had been married for 6 years. We had our beautiful 4-year-old son Lucas, and even though money was tight with my cashier job, we were making it work. Or so I thought. The note was written in elegant handwriting I didn't recognize. Same time tomorrow. Don't be late. V. My hands started shaking as I read it again. And again. The paper was expensive, the kind you'd find in an executive's office. Not the type Sam usually brought home from his purchasing manager job at the factory. It had a faint scent of perfume, something expensive and subtle. I stood there in our cramped laundry room, surrounded by piles of dirty clothes and the harsh smell of detergent, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Just a work meeting. But deep down, I knew better. The signs had been there for months. The late nights at work, the new cologne, the way he'd started password protecting his phone. Mama, look what I drew. Lucas came running in, holding up a crayon masterpiece. I quickly stuffed the note in my pocket and plastered on a smile. That's beautiful, baby. Is that? A dinosaur. It's a dragon. And he's protecting his treasure. His blue eyes sparkled with excitement, just like his father's. I hugged him close, breathing in his sweet little kid scent. You're my treasure, you know that? Later that night, Sam came home late again. He kissed me on the cheek, distracted, already reaching for his phone. Sorry, honey. Big project coming up. You wouldn't believe the day I had. I watched him scroll through his messages, noticed how he angled the screen away from me. The note felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. Everything okay at work? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. He didn't even look up. Yeah, just busy. Miss Green has really been pushing for this new contract. Vanessa. V. My stomach dropped as everything clicked into place. The CEO of the factory. Tall, elegant Vanessa Green, with her designer suits and perfect hair. I went to bed that night with my mind racing. But one thing was crystal clear. Nothing would ever be the same again. The next morning at work, I couldn't focus on anything. The register kept beeping, customers kept talking, but all I could think about was that note and the way Sam had said her name. Vanessa. Like it was something precious he'd been holding in his mouth. Earth to Clara. Mia's voice snapped me back to reality. She was standing next to my register, concern written all over her face. That's the third time you've given wrong change. What's going on? I glanced around the store, making sure no one was within earshot. I found something in Sam's pocket yesterday, I whispered, pulling her aside as another cashier took over my lane. In the break room, I showed her the note. Mia's eyes widened, then narrowed. That sneaky son of a... I don't know for sure. I cut her off, but my voice cracked. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Clara, honey, when was the last time he actually spent an evening with you and Lucas? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't remember. Even on weekends, Sam was always catching up on work or networking for that promotion. My phone buzzed. A text from Sam, working late again. Don't wait up. Mia read it over my shoulder and snorted. Networking, huh? That evening, I decided to try something different. I dressed up nice, ordered Sam's favorite takeout, and asked my mom to watch Lucas. When Sam finally came home at 9:30, his collar was slightly askew, and he smelled of unfamiliar perfume. What's all this? He asked, looking uncomfortable. I thought we could have dinner together. Talk about things. I tried to keep my voice steady. Like your big project with Vanessa Green. He froze for a split second before recovering. Oh, that. It's complicated business stuff, Clara. You wouldn't understand. Try me. He sighed, loosening his tie. Look, I'm exhausted. Can we do this another time? When? Between your late nights and networking events. The words came out sharper than I intended. Sam's face hardened. I'm doing this for us. For Lucas. Someone has to think about our future. Our future. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. When was the last time you read Lucas a bedtime story? Or asked about his day? That's not fair, he snapped. I'm working my ass off while you play cashier. Play cashier. The room suddenly felt too small. At least I come home to my family every night. He grabbed his keys. I need some air. As the door slammed behind him, my phone pinged. A social media notification. Vanessa Green had just checked in at the Grand Hotel downtown, the same direction Sam's car had headed. I stared at my reflection in the dark window, watching tears roll down my cheeks. Enough was enough. Time to stop playing the fool and find out exactly what my husband was up to. I sat in my car outside the Grand Hotel, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The valet had just parked Sam's car. I'd recognize that dent in the rear bumper anywhere. My mother's words from earlier echoed in my head. "Are you sure you want to know, sweetheart?" No, I wasn't sure. But I needed to. The hotel lobby was all marble and soft lighting. I must have looked out of place in my Target sweater and jeans, because the receptionist gave me a once-over that made my skin crawl. "I'm meeting someone at the bar," I said before she could ask. That's where I saw them. Sam and Vanessa, tucked into a corner booth. She wore a sleek black dress that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Sam was leaning in close, his hand on hers, wearing that smile I used to think was just for me. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. "Lucas is asking for his bedtime story. Should I tell him Daddy's working late again?" Something snapped inside me. I walked straight to their table, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear the ambient music. Is this the complicated business stuff I wouldn't understand? Sam jumped like he'd been shocked. "Clara, what are you?" "Your son is waiting for his bedtime story," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "But I guess that's not as important as networking." Vanessa didn't flinch. She just sipped her wine, watching me with those cool gray eyes. "Clara, this isn't what you think." "Really?" "Because I think my husband is sitting here with his hand on yours while our 4-year-old wonders why Daddy never comes home anymore." Sam stood up, reaching for my arm. "Let's talk about this at home." I jerked away. "Don't touch me. Just don't." That's when Vanessa spoke again, her voice soft but firm. "Sam's been instrumental in securing our company's future. He has real potential." "Potential?" I laughed, and it sounded almost hysterical. "Did he tell you about his potential as a father? As a husband?" The other diners were staring now. Sam's face had gone red. "Clara, you're making a scene." "No, you made the scene. I'm just here to watch it fall apart." I turned to leave, but Vanessa called after me. "We should discuss this like adults." I spun back. "Adults? Adults don't destroy families for fun, Vanessa. But hey, maybe that's just another complicated business thing I wouldn't understand." Walking out, I heard Sam calling my name, but I didn't stop. In my car, I finally let the tears come. My phone buzzed again, Mom asking if everything was okay. Nothing was okay. But for the first time in months, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Sam didn't come home that night. Or the next. When he finally showed up 3 days later, he found me sitting at our kitchen table with divorce papers. "What's this?" He picked up the papers, his hands shaking slightly. "You know exactly what it is." I watched him scan the first page, his face growing pale. "I already moved Lucas to Mom's." "Clara, please." He sank into the chair across from me. "We can work this out." "What happened with Vanessa?" "It's complicated. Actually, it's pretty simple." I slid my phone across the table, showing him the email I'd received that morning. "Your promotion comes with a transfer to the Chicago office, right?" Funny how Vanessa forgot to mention that at the hotel. His eyes widened. "How did you?" "The factory secretary feels bad for Lucas. She's been watching you destroy our family for months." Sam ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. "I was going to tell you about Chicago. We could make a fresh start there, all of us." "All of us?" I laughed. "You mean you, me, Lucas, and your girlfriend? One big, happy family." "She's not my..." He stopped, catching himself. "It's not like that. This promotion could change everything for us." "Everything's already changed, Sam." I stood up, needing to move, to breathe. "You know what Lucas asked me yesterday? He wanted to know if Daddy doesn't love us anymore because we're not rich like Miss Green." Sam flinched. "I never meant to hurt us? To teach our son that love can be bought? To make me feel like I wasn't enough?" My voice cracked. "Well, congratulations. You managed all 3. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. That's when his expression changed, hardened. You really want to do this? Throw away 6 years of marriage. You threw it away. I'm just making it official. If you do this, he said quietly, you'll get nothing. Vanessa's lawyers. Well, what? Hide your affair? Protect your reputation. I smiled, and it felt dangerous. Ask your girlfriend about the photos the hotel security cameras caught. Ask her what the board of directors might think about a CEO sleeping with her employees. His face went from pale to red. You wouldn't. Try me. I pushed the divorce papers toward him. I don't want your money, Sam. I don't want anything from you except joint custody of Lucas and my freedom. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't, and not really. Not until now. Sign the papers, I said. Or everyone finds out exactly what kind of business you've been handling after hours. The beauty school application sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I finally picked up the pen. My hands were shaking as I filled it out, but not from fear, from excitement. You're doing what? Mia nearly spilled her coffee when I told her. We were sitting in my mom's backyard, watching Lucas play with his trucks in the sandbox, getting my cosmetology license. I showed her the brochure. There's a night program. Mom can watch Lucas during my classes. But what about? The divorce papers are filed. I cut her off, not wanting to hear his name. I need to think about the future now. That's when my phone buzzed. Vanessa Green's number flashed on the screen. I'd never saved it, but I recognized it from Sam's call logs. Hello, Clara. Her voice was silk over steel. I think we should talk. 20 minutes later, I walked into the same hotel bar where I'd caught them together. Vanessa sat at a different table this time, wearing a power suit that probably cost more than my car. Thank you for coming. She gestured to the chair across from her. I wanted to discuss our situation. Woman to woman. Our situation? I stayed standing. You mean how you're sleeping with my husband? Sam is a valuable asset to the company. She didn't even blink. This transfer to Chicago could be beneficial for everyone. Everyone except Lucas. I understand your concern for your son. She opened her designer purse, pulled out a check. Perhaps this could help ease the transition. The amount written on that check could have paid off my car, covered beauty school, and still left enough for a down payment on a house. For a moment, I felt dizzy looking at all those zeros. You're trying to buy my son's father? I'm offering you freedom, Clara. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. A fresh start. Isn't that what you want? I thought about Sam's face when I threatened him with those security photos. About Lucas asking why Daddy doesn't love us anymore. About all those nights I spent feeling small and worthless. I picked up the check, held it up to the light. You know what's funny, Vanessa? A week ago, this might have worked. Then I ripped it in half. Her composure cracked, just for a second. Don't be foolish. No, I said, dropping the pieces into her wine glass. The foolish thing would be teaching my son that his happiness is for sale. Walking out of that hotel for the second time felt different. The first time I'd been broken. This time, I felt like I could breathe again. That evening, I mailed my beauty school application. 6 months into beauty school, I got the call I'd been dreading. Sam's lawyer wanted to discuss custody arrangements in Chicago. He can't just take Lucas, I told my lawyer, pacing her office. He hasn't even seen him in weeks. The court looks favorably on financial stability, she replied carefully. And with his new position, I felt the walls closing in. Sam had everything: money, power, Vanessa's legal team. I had student loans and a part-time cashier job. That evening, I found Lucas in tears, clutching a new tablet. Daddy sent it, he sniffled. He says I can video chat with him when we move to Chicago. When we move. My stomach dropped. Miss Green helped him pick it out. Lucas looked up at me with those blue eyes, Sam's eyes. She says they have better schools there. I nearly threw up. Later that night, Mom found me sitting in the dark kitchen. Clara, honey, I can't lose him. My voice cracked. He's all I have. Then fight. She sat beside me. Remember when you were little and that girl bullied you? What did you do? Started my own lunch table. I smiled despite myself. Everyone ended up sitting with me instead of her. Exactly. You've never needed their kind of power to win. The next morning, I walked into my beauty school instructor's office with an idea. 2 hours later, I had a business plan. Then Sam showed up at Mom's house. "I'm not trying to hurt you," he said, standing in the doorway. "But Lucas deserves the best opportunities." Like watching his father abandon his morals for a promotion? His face hardened. "At least I can provide for him." "What can you offer?" "A life of struggle. Love. Stability. A mother who shows up." "The judge won't see it that way." He pulled out some papers. "Vanessa's lawyers found something interesting about your beauty school loans. Apparently, there were some irregularities in the application." My blood ran cold. I'd listed our old joint account as my primary financial resource before Sam closed it. "Sign over primary custody," he said softly, "and this disappears. Fight me, and you'll lose everything, including your chance at a license." I watched him walk to his new luxury car, where Vanessa waited in the passenger seat. They looked perfect together, polished and powerful. Inside, Lucas was playing with his new tablet, chatting with Sam's face on the screen. I touched the business plan in my pocket, my dream of opening my own salon, of building something for us. It felt like ashes now. But Mom's words echoed. "You've never needed their kind of power to win." I just had to figure out what kind of power I did need. The factory's annual shareholders meeting wasn't the place I planned to make my stand, but sometimes life hands you perfect timing. I walked into that conference room wearing my beauty school uniform, my heart pounding but my head high. Vanessa was mid-presentation when she saw me. Her perfect smile flickered for just a second. "I apologize for the interruption," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "But I have some information the board might want to consider before voting on the Chicago expansion." Sam stood up from his seat near Vanessa. "Clara, don't." "In your folders," I continued, watching the board members open the envelopes I'd placed earlier with help from the secretary. "You'll find documentation of inappropriate relationships between senior management, misuse of company resources, and some interesting expense reports." Vanessa's face went white. "Security. Oh, and there's more." I pulled out my phone. Would anyone like to hear the recording of Miss Green offering to buy my silence about her affair with my husband? The boardroom erupted in whispers. An older man at the head of the table held up his hand for silence. "Young lady," he said, "these are serious allegations. They're all documented." I met Vanessa's eyes, including the attempt to use company lawyers to threaten my custody rights. Sam stepped toward me. "You're making a mistake." "No, you made the mistake." I turned to face him. "You thought because I was just a cashier, just your wife, that I had no power. But you know what I learned in beauty school? People talk. They trust you. They tell you things." I looked around the room. Like how Miss Green has been dating other employees. Like how company money paid for their business trips. The cleaning staff, the security guards, the secretaries, they see everything. And they told me everything. The board chairman was reading the documents, his frown deepening. Vanessa stood frozen, her presentation forgotten behind her. "Mrs. Whitaker," the chairman said finally, "we'll need to verify these claims." "Of course." I smiled. "The witnesses are all ready to testify. They're tired of being treated like they don't matter." Sam grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. "Why are you doing this?" I pulled away gently. "Because Lucas deserves to see that doing the right thing matters more than power. And because I deserve to win on my own terms." Walking out, I heard the chaos erupting behind me. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. "Lucas just got an A on his art project. Says he wants to show you first." I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about proving they never had the power to destroy you in the first place. 1 year later, I cut the ribbon to my new salon. The whole neighborhood seemed to be there. My regular clients from beauty school, Mom beaming proudly, Mia taking pictures, and Lucas holding my free hand. "Speech," someone called out. I looked at the storefront, at my name in elegant letters, Clara's Crown and Glory. Below it, in smaller text, "Everyone deserves to feel beautiful." "This isn't just my victory," I said, squeezing Lucas's hand. "It belongs to everyone who helped me believe in myself again." That's when I noticed her at the back of the crowd. Vanessa looked different, softer somehow, without her power suits and perfect makeup. She waited until the crowd dispersed before approaching. "Congratulations," she said, holding out an envelope. "I thought you should have this." Inside was a letter. I started reading, "Dear Clara, by the time you read this, I'll be stepping down as CEO. The board's investigation revealed more than just our indiscretions." "Keep reading," she said quietly. The letter continued. "I grew up believing power meant never letting anyone see your weakness. My father taught me that. But watching you fight for your son, for your dignity, showed me real strength isn't about power at all." I looked up. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because you won, but not the way I expected." She smiled sadly. "You didn't destroy me. You showed me a better way to be strong." As she turned to leave, I called after her. "What will you do now?" "Start over. Maybe open my own business." She paused. "The right way this time." Later that evening, as I was closing up, Sam came by with Lucas after their weekly dinner. He looked different too, humbler, more like the man I'd first fallen in love with. "The place looks amazing," he said, hanging back while Lucas showed me his drawing of the salon. "Thanks." I watched our son proudly pointing out details of his artwork. "He's happy, you know. Having both of us in his life, even if it's different now." "You did that," Sam said softly. "You showed him what integrity looks like." After they left, I stood in my salon, my dream made real. On the wall hung Lucas's first drawing from that awful day I found the note, a dragon protecting his treasure. Below it, his newest masterpiece, a family portrait with two houses, one for mom and one for dad, and him in the middle, smiling. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about getting better. About showing your child that happy endings don't always look the way you expected, but they're beautiful anyway. I locked up, heading home to my son, leaving the past where it belonged, behind me, but not forgotten. Just transformed into something stronger like me.